All right, so we're going to do Leaders Motivate. The sign-in sheets, before you leave, if you want to receive the slides, please sign that. I also will send a link of the video I'm taking of the course, because you know, a lot of times the comments along the way are the best information, so you can review those and share with anyone you want. So, my name is Brian Kale. I'm from Goose Creek District. That's Loudoun County, Virginia. My email, and if you miss it again, it's up here on my wanted poster. I ran out of cookies, so I can't give you no cookies. So, here we go. Keeping the leaders motivated, which is an interesting last period of the day thing. Here we go. Now, Lord Baden-Powell had a quote for everything. I tell you what, everything. It must have been a man sitting right beside of him with a pencil and paper, listening. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I can just see now, he just said something. I want a sandwich. Oh, that's not a good one. But he did have some amazing ones, and I believe this is truly a great one. An individual step in character training is to put responsibility on the individual. That is not just scouting, that is in everything. If you want your kids to become more responsible, you give them responsibilities. Give them the capability to both succeed and or fail. That is important. Same thing applies to leaders. And so keep that in mind as we go along, because I believe this is the core of what you need to understand for motivation. Okay? So what's motivation mean?
I believe in that in a couple of butt whoopings.
Yes, that's additional motivation. So what is motivation? Giving a reason to act. There it is. And you know, enthusiasm. You know, a reason for doing something. A force determining behavior. Okay? Wow, this sounds like a psychology class. I don't know if we're going to like this. Let's move on. Well, what motivates people? Okay? It's important to understand what motivates people. And in almost every single case, one of these four is the primary motivator. That doesn't mean it's your only motivator, it's your primary motivator. And you have, you know, the rest come in small components as far as your dialects, but you have a primary language, so to speak. Okay? So let's go through them. Recognition. The motivator could be for respect, to garner additional respect. Admiration, regard, esteem, celebrity. We've seen a lot of people that's their motivation, right? Okay. They go both ways. It could be the wish to gain it for yourself or to emulate it because you want to have those strengths, okay? Typically, scout leaders are not a whole lot in this as their primary. It's just not our typical group. That doesn't mean they aren't. And that doesn't mean they're not valuable to the scouting movement. Influence, okay? Power, control. The key here, my bullet point is, these come into play a lot in committee meetings and leader meetings. It doesn't mean it's contentious and fisticuffs, but there's always a little power thing going on. Hey, we should do this. No, I don't think we should. Why? Well, that's not work because of this, this, and this. Really? Those kind of things. A lot of times the conversation goes on. Why are we doing something? Because we've always done that. That in itself is a power thing. Okay? So understand that sometimes these are the motivation for the next one. Internal. Morals, duty, creativity, honor, love. This right here is where most scout leaders live. Most scout leaders want to see their sons grow up to be incredible men of character. And they want to do it by helping them and their friends get there. They want to provide a great demonstration of the right moral compass, and they want to teach them skills. They want to pass on their skills of creativity and such so these boys turn into amazing men. That's what we want. That's good. That's what the program is good about. Yeah, right? Okay, that's where most of our leaders fall into. Okay, now, just because this is not your primary motivation doesn't mean that you may not have a large component of this when you put on the brown shirt. You may be a power-hungry guy that's out there during your regular business day, and you put on the brown shirt and all of a sudden, hey, you're very altruistic. That's okay too. I'm still good with that. All right. Profit. Success, money, wealth. Well, that doesn't sound like scouting at all. That is a great popcorn kernel, right there. Okay, as a general rule, you're right. This is not the scouting way, but there are a lot of folks that's their motivation. Once again, I'm not condemning any one of them, and please don't take it as that. Every single one of these groups can be used in scouting, absolutely. Now, do we hope that most of us are going in this one? Yes, but everyone has a place. And the important part is knowing what their motivation is, because then you can understand how to continue to motivate them, what their language is, what their love language is, so to speak. There are a lot of type A personalities out there. Washington metro area is Like capital of the world for type A personalities, I tell you what. So, this happens a lot, yes.
So for influence, I mean, you kind of bring that as a negative term, but I see it as influence because I can have, like as a company master, I have influence over
Exactly.
50 boys and I can make a difference in their lives.
Exactly.
That motivates me.
I don't mean to say influence is a bad thing. Influence, and obviously, influence is, you're demonstrating, if we use the word edge, explain, demonstrate, guide, enable, you are demonstrating on a regular basis the right way of doing something to provide the great example. So you're right, influence. So, and a lot of times what we're talking about here is more affluence. Let's call it that versus influence. Okay? So why do we care? We care because we need to know what's driving our leaders. Okay? Ultimately, what keeps them excited? What makes them do their best? Right? Okay? It's ultimately about knowing and understanding what language is best for them. What do they need? But here's something every single one of them needs, and you do too. So let's not say other leaders, let's say you too, because this applies, and I'm hoping that you're going to take this and apply it to yourself too, because you need to stay motivated as well. And your unit needs to feed you as well. Matter of fact, the fact that you're here shows that you have a heart for the fact that you want to make things better. So this is good. This applies to you as well. You want to feel appreciated, right? Absolutely. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. They want to be appreciated for their effort, their time, their skills. You don't want to toil over here and, forever and ever and a day and no one ever say thank you. Okay, a lot of us going to go, well, thank yous are not important. Oh, yeah, they are. They're still important. It may not be your only driving force, but man, sometimes, some days when things are going really bad, you just need a thank you. And it just lifts your spirit and all of a sudden like, got it. We go, that's all I need. I need a breather. My breather is a thank you. And so we all need that. We need to make sure that we all feel like we're making a difference. If you're in a job in scouting and you don't feel that you're making a difference in the lives of the boys, you probably ought to find another job in scouting. Because that's what we're here for, to make a difference. The challenge of the task. If you are a Cub Master, you've been a Cub Master for 5 years and you are putting out the exact same 12-pack meetings every single time, I don't think you're feeling challenged anymore. And chances are your program reflects it. Does that mean you're a bad person? No, absolutely not. Everyone needs a challenge. Everyone needs to grow. Everyone needs to stretch a little bit. It's just like your job. If you've done the exact same job for 10 years and you don't find new challenges every day, it's sometimes tough to get there. That shouldn't be the way it is. You should feel that I'm growing and I'm improving myself, just like everything else. And the feel the work is important. That one's usually the easiest one, because you just have to look in the eyes of any of the boys, and when they're smiling like they got something or they just tried something for the first time, and that usually fills that tank right up. But that's important. That's something that scout leaders want. Okay, so motivation comes from the inside, not the outside. Well, we're done. We'll just classes and we'll just sit for the rest of the time. That's true. It does come from inside, but it's cultivated from the outside. I cannot change your internal motivation, but I can provide you lots of things to help you with your motivation. Ultimately, if you've got settled in your mind, I just don't want to do this anymore, I may not be able to change your mind, but I can provide you lots of positives to maybe make you change your mind, or to keep you energetic. Okay? So, let's look at the you first. And this is the big you. Notice it's all you. This is the corporate you, your unit. Does your unit understand the mission? If you went to your committee meeting, or if you went to your leader meeting and everyone had a piece of paper and without working with each other wrote down what the mission of your program was, would you all write the same thing? No! Because we don't actually articulate very well. Everyone has their own little feeling of it, but we don't articulate very well. And it's important to be on the same page of music. How do you communicate? Well, we have emails and every once in a while a meeting. Do you do regular feedback? Do you write anything down? Do you do stop, start, continues? Do you do roses and thorns? There's about 1,000 more names for that. Do you do them? I mean, those kind of things. How does your unit view success? Well, we didn't lose any boys this year. Both membership and also on campus. Is that your success criteria? How do you measure it? And everyone's like, oh, this sounds like a business meeting now. Wait a minute, this is good. It's the reason I bring these up is by understanding what success is, it understands how everyone's facing. Even a 1-degree difference of facing of the different leaders can cause a problem eventually. Because as you continue to go along, you get further and further apart. It's important that everyone understands what success is. If success is that every single boy has a great time in the program and we teach them some skills and all the parents are happy, okay, that's a great success criteria. It's hard to measure happiness. But you know what? That's an okay goal, if that's what the goal is. If the goal is, everyone's goal is we're going to go 3 camping trips and every boy's going to know how to cook the following meals, okay, that's easier to measure. But you just need to be on the same page. Is everyone specific with the roles and tasks that they have? Do you know exactly what your role is and what all your responsibilities are? Does everyone in your pack? Do your parents know? Okay. Getting lockstep makes all the difference. And here's why. Okay? It all comes down to expectations. Now, big rocks. Have you guys heard of the term big rocks? Okay. If you had a jar and you could only put so many things into it, if you put in the small stuff in life and then try to jam in the big rocks, it doesn't work. But if you put the big rocks, the important things in your life in first, then you can fill in with the smaller things and eventually you get so much more in your jar. That applies to your life. That's something we teach at Wood Badge. It applies, the big rocks are typically your health, your family, things of that sort. Okay? In scouting, the big rocks for your program is about expectations, about what the leaders are doing, what their job is, what their assignment is, what success is. That's a big rock. Whether or not we are going to have our Pinewood Derby cars passed out in November or December is a little rock. That's a logistic. Okay? So, does the leader know their job? Hey, what's your assignment of your duration of assignment? I have 1 boy, 5 years. Isn't that a way it happens? Hey, you're the tiger den leader. Congratulations. You're going to be a den leader for 5 years. Well, my second son comes along. Hey, great, 7 years. Is that it? Really? You're joking, but I've been Cub Master for 5 years. I got my second son in there, and my third son starts next year. I could be there for 12 years as Cub Master. Seriously. There is no end to the job. That's not the way to do it. Everyone should know where the end is, because you know how to manage your energy level and what you need to do, and your motivation. You know the joke around the mule that keeps going around and around and around in circles with a carrot? Eventually they don't even need the carrot. They just keep walking around and walking around. If there is no end of the journey, you're just walking. And that's important. And what kind of work is expected? It's only 1 hour a day, right? Or no, it's an hour a week. It's an hour per boy. I don't know, it's an hour per month. What is it? How much is expected? These are important things to know. And this is what motivation is about. So here's all the things we're going to go through. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of things. Yes, it is. But here we go. But the bottom line is getting to know your volunteers and your leaders. Who are they? They're people just like you. Lots of things going on in their life. Heart connections. Heart connections is a term that we use in Wood Badge, which is about getting to know somebody. How much do you know about your other leaders? Hopefully you all know their names, right? Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised. That's why we get everybody a name tag. We get everybody a name tag in our pack so that the parents also can know the name of all the leaders too. Because it's important. We're a family and we really should know each other. Now, that doesn't mean that we do absolutely every single thing every minute of the day with each other, but we should know things about each other, right? What do they do for a living? Do you know what everybody of your other leaders do for a living? Yeah, maybe. Hey, what's their hobbies? Now it's starting to get. Do they volunteer doing anything else? How much time does that take? Are they the kind of people that wants to be the upfront person or the back burner kind of person? All these things build together as far as how well you know your volunteers and how well they know you. Do your other leaders know those things about you? It's important if you want to be motivated, if they want to be motivated, that you realize that these are your friends. These are friends. This may not be the friend that in the biggest of crisis you call them first. I'm not talking that friend, but these are people that we are working together towards a great goal. These are your friends. Okay? If you don't know anything about your volunteers, there is no way to motivate them. You know, being able to recognize that they have personal needs. You know, be thankful for them. Talk to them. And when they, you know, they have to miss certain meetings, hey, you know, we missed you. Are you okay? Or maybe, hey, do we need to make some meals for you? How can we help you? There's where heart connections and caring comes around. Because we're one big family, right? You need to let them know you're important to us. And hopefully they're doing the same for you. You're important to them. All right, communicate. This is my favorite picture of for communication. I used to play a game with my den called the Screaming Game. It really had no purpose other than the fact that, you know, the boys could challenge anybody else to see who could just yell the longest. And they would always challenge me, and they always lose. Because I would make funny faces and make them laugh, and then they stopped screaming. See, I about got him already. He's already starting to, you know, smile, and he was going to stop in a minute. It was just a boy game. Be outside and be loud. And it was just fun. Sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes when you're working with other leaders, it's just about talking about fun stuff. Hey, what'd you do this weekend? You know, gosh, my lawnmower broke down. Oh yeah, you sharpened the blade? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, just simple stuff. You're building some connections. You know, but when you're communicating, you need to be very specific with things. Feedback is a gift. That's what we say in Wood Badge. Now, the key here, though, is that most people don't feel comfortable giving feedback because they haven't made themselves open to receiving feedback. Okay? Feedback comes from trust. I have to believe that you and I are going to have our conversation of feedback from a point of trust. You're not trying to score points on me, I'm not trying to score points on you, I'm trying to make us both successful. And hopefully that's the way you are in your pack, right? Sometimes it's hard, I know, it's very difficult. That's not the way we normally live our life and folks outside of our families. But it's really not that hard. You know, we should be available to, you know, for brainstorming and replanning. You know, talk things through. Give more than just a moment's thought to, hey, have you ever tried this? I don't know. And just talk it through. You know, timely manner to questions. Honest feedback. Honest. And the fact that you tell them you're well, you taking their feedback and actually incorporating it goes a long way. That's the way that everyone feels included. When's the last time you gave honest feedback? All right, also communicating, explaining things fully. There's a lot of times where if I get another adult to help me do something, you know, they may not understand the width and breadth of what I'm asking them to do. I need to take that moment to explain. Not to, you know, I'm setting them up for success, not for failure, by the fact that they understand what they should be doing. Because either they're going to be brave enough to come ask me 1,000 questions, or they're going to go off on their own and not want to ask me 1,000 questions, and all of a sudden the product or whatever they do is going to be like, what is that? You know? So you might as well do it up front. Capture your lessons learned. I have been trying the last couple of years to have absolutely every single event afterwards we do a couple of lessons learned, and sometimes it's just a paragraph. What did we learn from that? Yeah, we should probably send out the email about this happening 3 more weeks earlier than we did. Or we should not use it at this event, we should play with it here. Or we should, you know, just something simple. Sometimes it doesn't have to be overly complicated or, you know, tons and tons of process. But ultimately, it's about learning and then incorporation.
And that's the first thing we do at our leadership meetings. We talk about what have we done since the last leadership meeting. And
That's right.
Lessons learned.
That is very good. That's a great thing to do. Because it saves you a ton of time of repeating, and ultimately you take 2 steps forward without the 1 step back. And that's the big deal. It didn't have to be excessive documentation, but, you know, there are some people, I'm guaranteed in your pack, who like doing documentation. Write something down. If it's not you, that's okay. Somebody does. There's so many different aspects in what people like to do. All right, so here's the next thing is probably the biggest killer of motivation. Organization. Respect your volunteers' time. Start on time, end on time. Hey, I need everybody to show up. We're gonna do a cleanup of this area, and then we stand around for 15 minutes before we start. Drives me insane. Because that 15 minutes is valuable. Your time is valuable. My time is valuable. What about a task that only took like 3 people to do and I have like 20 show up? That shows I don't understand the task. It's like, You know, why do I have all these people? Because next time I say, we have a really big test, like, yeah, like the last one, and all of a sudden you can't get anybody to show up. You know, it's about the right number of people for the job. You know, be ready for it. Have your goals written out. Be ready to use your resources properly. That shows that you respect their time, know what the job was, and understand their skill set. Big deal. Big, 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 big. Big. Start on time. All right. Feedback is a gift on both job performance, areas of improvement, level of success. It is hard to give feedback at first. I'm not going to say, oh, it's easy. If you do it with a smile on your face, everyone takes feedback perfectly. No, but it's a task and a habit that you should get involved with. Because hopefully you're doing it from a point of caring, right? If you've already made it clear with every way you're doing things that you're coming from a point of caring, I'm giving you feedback because I think we can do amazing things. And how can I help you? This is the way we can do it. Now, not everyone takes feedback well, and that's okay. But over time, success comes out of that. Sometimes it's like, oh, you know, they're so touchy. Okay, why are they touchy? Have you analyzed why they're touchy? This is about getting to know each other. Conflict management, it happens. There's always some kind of conflict. Hopefully nothing really huge, but sometimes there are. Differences of opinion, differences of something else outside of scouting. You know, two neighbors arguing over a fence. Who knows? Be honest about the level of effort required to do things too.
Yeah, so how do you stay motivated? How do you keep them motivated when there's a conflict in management?
If there is a conflict in management, ultimately the PAC still has a structure as far as what as far as committee chair and as far as leading the entire PAC, and the Cub Master is leading the program section.
What if the conflict in management is with the top person?
Then the charter organization rep and or the UC should be involved, unit commissioner. Ultimately, what happens a lot of times with these conflict management is it's a power struggle, and it ultimately, scouting is very clear about who has control of what. Okay, now these are not comfortable subjects that are going to be like, hey, this is easy, this is like rainbows and puppies. But these are things that have to be bled off if the PAC is going to continue to grow and be healthy. If it requires a third party to come in, the unit commissioner is your best person. They are your third party, they understand scouting, and they are there to just be a mediator. And actually say, this is the way scouting works. This is who has responsibility for this, who is responsibility for this. I know there's no easy formula. Hey, here's your easy formula. Here's your get out of jail free card. Use it twice.
Yeah, because we're doing a crossover between old school and new school.
Mm-hmm.
And then the old school way is obviously not working.
Right.
And the people who are new school are younger, much more thirsty in motivation and pushing things forward.
Right.
But until the old school is there, until that bridge gaps,
Right.
it's gaps.
Your UC needs to get involved. Because ultimately, the PAC is going to grow or not grow based on day to day, not a year from now. You know, we can say, hey, we can just hold them out, we can wait them out. When there are conflicts like that, it bleeds over into everything about your program. It bleeds over to the parents, it bleeds over into the boys.
Yeah, because
it
I have
lasts-
13 boys leaving.
It lasts a long time, too.
It does, and it can become a very big festering sore.
Right.
I mean, my Weevil's twos are huge, it's 13 boys I'm losing. And I can't, I feel like my pack is dissipating by the day.
Get your unit commissioner involved, ASAP. And let them just have, and they may have to have individual talks with each person and then bring them together to mediate and say, this is what needs to happen. But you need a third party to come there, because right now, all you're doing is they're just circling the same point on the map. And they're never gonna come to, there's never a bridge that they're building. They need someone else to help them understand a win-win concession.
Trickles down to the boys, we've had to.
Yeah. These are important as well. Don't forget when you're doing details, you're not doing anyone any favor if you are not being 100% honest with any of those components. There's nothing more demotivating than the fact that you signed up for something, yeah, I'll do this, and it ends up being 20 times longer than anticipated. All it does is stress you out. Okay? Having a detailed description of the job allows the volunteers to measure their own success. Yes. And I don't mean just the Boy Scout one that you print out. This is what a den leader does. There should be a list of responsibilities that is specific to your unit, because every unit uses it slightly different. And it's a good thing to have, because it helps, while you're actually putting it together and reading across it, you know, why do we do that? I don't know why we do that. Should we try this? Maybe we should try that. And now, all of a sudden, you start breaking out of what become habits that sometimes turn into misunderstandings. So this is important too, about feedback. Genuine, honest, and that's where the UC is going to come in. To have genuine, honest conversations with each group, even if it's being separately before bringing them together, to understand what is bothering you about this, what is bothering you about this, why, you know, then between them, helping them find the inroads between the two. Timely course corrections. Now, this bullet point here, everyone's like, what? You want your leaders to grow out of their job. You want them to be growing in capabilities, and then have someone else come in. It keeps the pack alive and vital, and it also allows people to continue to grow and feel that they're making a continuing greater and greater influence of what's going on and how they're helping, and what they're doing is important. If you're not growing as a person, eventually it just becomes rote, and you're not even really thinking about what you're doing anymore. So it needs to be where you want people to grow out of that job. And even when they're at, you know, they're leaving that job, whether they're going to another job, they're going to a troop, or whatever, say thank you and find out some more about how would they change the job.
How do you feel about term limits?
I feel very good about it. We're going to go out there and say.
Well, what's a good,
I believe every single position in a pack should have a time limit. Now, that doesn't mean that is a term limit, meaning, okay, after you've been Cub Master for 2 years, you may never be Cub Master again. It doesn't mean that. It means that you're signing up to be a den leader. Great. Your time as den leader is 1 year. At the end of the year, you go, you know what, I love that. I'd like to do it again. Assuming we all agree that you did a great job. Great. Well, you know, there's possibilities that maybe that wasn't the best fit for you. But, you know, as long as you want to keep upping up, the biggest problem that most people have in scouting is they get a job and they feel honor bound to never put it down. You know, I Cub Master, and you know, you Cub Master, and you're Cub Master, and you're Cub Master, and he's like, man, I would really like to do something else. There's nobody else to do it. If they know there's a term limit and you start doing your succession training accordingly, if I love it, I go, you know what, I'd love to do another year. Hey, great, we'd love you to. But I say, you know what, I need to do something else. They know it's coming. It's not a, and I don't feel bad about putting it down. I don't feel like I'm letting the pack down, because it was already a definitive time. And that's why there should always be a time limit on everything. Yes.
I've been thinking about doing this, which is inviting the new kindergarten dads to the Blue and Gold.
Right?
So I get them sort of into the feeling that they'll, you know, at least one of them will sign up. Have you tried something like that?
I have not tried that, but I have gone to, you know, a lot of times the kindergarten dads and such, I will go to, you know, baseball teams and stuff like that, and we'll just talk Cub Scouting and what's going on, so that they get a feel of, and I can always get a good sense of the one that is the volunteer, the one that likes jumping there, that, you know, that always wants to help, you know, and jumps in. And if I find Eagle Scout, I got him anyway, because that's Eagle guilt.
Right.
Hey, Eagle Scout? Yeah, you promised to help.
That doesn't always work. I got an Eagle Scout dad who.
I know, that was mostly a joke, but it does work most of the time. So.
No, I've been guilty of it for years.
In the pack that I came from, we would have the dads, and we would have a sign-up sheet basically like this, and they would sign up per month of, you know, okay, just come up with an activity.
And for Tigers, that's exactly the way it's supposed to be anyway. It's supposed to be a co-op. But for other dens, that's a very viable
But it
option.
went all the way up. But what I noticed, and was kind of funny, is my dad was a, you know, pack leader. I can't remember what
Cub
it was
Master.
called. Cub Master, okay. But he would, you know, send out emails, and then I noticed that he was on the computer a lot in the beginning, in the first 2 years of them doing that, and then he just stopped. Because then, you know, he'd been noticing that he had been enabling them, and then he just stopped, and then it just shut off, and everything went perfect.
Well, I mean, ultimately, large group broadcasts don't work. It needs to be an individual master sale, which I'm going to hit in just a second or so. Let's talk delegation for a second. I am the worst delegator. I know that. That's me. I can't do it. And it's horrible, because you are so much greater when you can delegate to a team. Some of the team can accomplish so many amazing things.
But not only that, you lose track,
Yes, you do.
because you've done everything and the pack gets used to you doing
Yes, they do.
everything. but
Which is
all
one of
a
their
sudden when
fears
you
right now.
delegate-
One of their fears right now was probably with me putting down Cub Master is that right there. But you know what? Your level of work impacts responsiveness. If you are overwhelmed, you know, there's so much on you, you're not responsive to everyone else who's doing work and what's going on. If your volunteers are overburdened, they burn out. And they sort of disappear. You know, and they don't disappear in a good way. They just sort of disappear, and all of a sudden you're like, have you seen so-and-so? You need to trust them to do the job. But here's the key. In scouting, we are so bad about, hey, you're a volunteer, great, sign up. I love you. Not everyone is cut out for every job. You know, if I have someone come up and say, you know, I'd love to be Cub Master, but yet they don't talk in front of people very often, they're probably not my Cub Master. Now, they may be my assistant Cub Master for a while, who's part of the group that's supporting, and maybe they're the foil for some of the skits, and then I watch them and maybe they grow into it. There's no reason to say that people can't grow into something. But you need to match your volunteer with the position. If someone says, I'd love to be a den leader, but yet they are very disorganized and everything, they probably are not your best den leader.
So what would you do if you're in that? if
I
you're in
give them
that
another position. I find them another position. Now,
There's so many positions.
there are so many things you can do. I never want to pass up someone who has the volunteering spirit. If they come up and go, you know what? What I really need is I need a summer camp coordinator and a camping coordinator. You know, or whatever skill set I think they have. Or I need a popcorn colonel, or I need a treasurer. Or you know what I really need? I need someone to take charge and manage the train, you know, be the pack trainer.
Or the secretary.
Or the secretary, or put the newsletter together, or da-da-da-da-da. There's like 1,000 things. Yeah, and find the thing that fits their personality, because chances are you know them. Now, you know, I had one person come to me and says, I absolutely want to be the treasurer. I didn't know them from anybody. Okay, and I hate to sound mean, but I'm not going to turn over the pack's money to someone that I have met right there. I'm like, that sounds great. I tell you what, why don't you work with our current treasurer and we'll see what happens. And it fell off. They didn't want to do that. I'm like, you know, there's certain positions like, this is not where I'm going here. But you know, you need to make sure they match up. And never trust that the volunteer is going to tell you uncle. Most scouting volunteers, once they get the shirt, they've got this pick me attitude. They just take on more and more and more and more until they're crushed to the ground. You know, I'm a prime example of that. I'm a Cub Master, I'm a roundtable commissioner, I train in Pow Wow and University of Scouting, I do wood badge staff training, I do da-da-da-da-da-da-da. My wife's like, are you kidding me? I can't say no. So, you know, and as a non-delegator, that's bad. So you need to make watching, you know, and even if you're not the person responsible, if you're just a fellow den leader, look at your other den leaders, how can I help you? I got a little open space here, what can I do for you? And you know, spreading it out, and it helps people understand and puts new ideas in the way the program's going.
Well, I found sometimes you had a lot of parents that were very quiet, that weren't that go-getter and
Yep.
like me type of person, but then when you asked them like, hey, do you think you could, and they totally took off with
Absolutely.
it. And they were waiting for somebody just to ask
And
them.
that's it. Every pack should have a nominating committee that actually is looking at every single parent and saying, you know, we need a position, let's find our top 3 candidates. And then whomever is your spokesperson, typically it's the Cub Master or the committee chair, goes to that person, asks for the sale.
Yeah.
The nominating committee was talking about, they love your ability to this and this and this and this, and we think you would be awesome in this position. Here's this term of it, you know, how long it takes, and here's what it takes. Can you do that for us? Now, most of the time, well, I better ask the wife, I better ask the husband. That's great. But then you know, well, I tell you what, let's talk about 2 or 3 days, and most times, people say yes. Because most times, people want to be asked. They have a volunteering spirit, they just don't want to volunteer for an open-ended thing. They need to feel that I can accomplish this and do it well.
And sometimes they see parent A that does everything, that, you know, bulldozes and like picks up everything, and then
There
they're
is.
like, okay, well, they're gonna do it anyway.
That's true. That's very true. All right, so act now. Well, this is what we're talking about right here. Ask for the sale. You cannot think that you're going to find a volunteer to do something at the last minute. Just-in-time planning does not work in Cub Scout packs. It is not their primary job. It is not the thing that they're going to pick out immediately. Okay? If I need if a den leader is going to leave, in 3 months, I better start finding that person's replacement now. And truthfully, I should have had one anyway. But let's say I didn't, because I was not paying attention. I better find it now. Because every single thing takes time. And you need to get people up and running. So you need to have interim goals and deadlines. Understand, this is going to take a bit this, and this. We better get this going now.
Okay, so I digress a little bit.
Yeah.
So what if you have your church committee person who's supposed to know everybody and if everything goes in a perfect world, your den leader should have had that activity, whatever it's called, the activity form.
Chairman,
Parent, they'll let you know what the parents' hobbies are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if that's done correctly, then you have a good portfolio of who your top three should be, where you're gonna place them, how you're gonna ask, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But what if none of that's in place?
Well, you got recharter coming up, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great time to do it. As part of our recharter, we're going to take medical forms from everybody and a parent's interest and a capabilities form, and also a form that has all your emails and addresses so we can get all our recharter done.
So who announces that? The church committee or?
Make sure
The
it's
den?
done at a PAC meeting or
Yep.
a den meeting, and do not let those forms go home, because the first year Tiger year, I was just like, fill them out at home. bring them
I
to
did
the
too, and I
meeting.
never saw them, or I saw
Yeah.
two
Yeah,
of the 10
you have to
kids
do
I had.
it, like you said, like you want your kid to reach harder, like we need these forms
Each
back.
den
Yeah.
leader, you announce at the PAC meeting, and each den leader is tasked with getting back every single form of their den.
You want a snack, tell your mom to give me that form.
Yeah.
You want some ice cream right here?
I'm
Down
gonna keep your
here.
kid entertained for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah,
while
that
you
doesn't
fill out
sound
that
weird at
form,
all.
but-
Okay.
Because they won't
Our
fill it out.
package is
To make sure we get the information, we don't have the den leaders do the forms. We have someone up front, we'll have the treasurer and a couple people,
Okay.
and we'll have the person in the scouts to get in there to sign to make sure everything is.
And that's good too. It just, the question is whether or not you want to delegate it out. It just depends on how big your unit is and how quickly you need to have your recharter done.
That's like I said, the perfect
Well,
setting. I have
we're-
so many vacant positions right now.
Well, so do I, because we're in a position where the person, people get burnt out and people were transitioning and somebody was supposed to pick up something, was a committee chair, she just didn't show up anymore. And so now I'm filling that position, so we've got some people in there, so we typically do, we have everybody, we got a boatload of new parents coming in. So we're having them up front, we're doing, like orientations almost every time we have a meeting with people, and we're handling up front and letting the den leaders, and I'm so short on den leaders that it's crazy. So I'm not putting extra stuff on them,
No,
I got
and that
volunteers
sounds
up
good,
front.
especially if those folks have the ability to reach out and touch on an individual basis, families, because that's the key
Yeah.
here, is that you can never trust they all call or they all email and says, hey, everybody be sure to meet this deadline. Right, that's not gonna happen, we know that. It's gotta be an individual, hey, how you doing? Even if sometimes go to their house, how you doing? Here's the form, can you fill these out?
And sometimes it's breaking it down, like I was in a situation going into Weeblo's year as a den leader where nobody was helping, nobody wanted to help, and we had a parent-only meeting, please, if you can, leave your child at home, just send one parent.
Yep.
We need to sit down and talk about this, and I was very, very prepared with what I had. I had already gotten the handbooks, we didn't give them the handbooks that night, but I had the handbooks out. I had the list of the different activity badges with short description, I had my parent forms for them to fill out, and I said, and my assistant we were both saying this, we will remain, nobody wants to take over here, we've done this for 3 years, we're a little burnt out, we'll continue to do it. However, every parent in this den needs to choose an activity badge to do a month. That's just the way we need help, and
Like,
just break it down,
Yeah, I
like,
did
you
that in
know?
Tigers, and that's how
Yeah.
my wolf den is so strong right now.
Right.
But they're the strongest out of
Yeah.
them all.
But do it again for Weeblos. I mean, you have enough activity badges. I mean, you might need to do a couple, but that's okay. Like, and that way just they see. And I think it was such an aha moment for them. Like, they didn't realize how burnt out we were. And both of us were having kids coming through as Tigers. We were like, we'd like to give them some attention too. Like,
Put it this
but
way
then,
too.
they
The
got
worst
totally
that can
into it.
happen by doing it is it doesn't work. The best that can happen by not doing it is you get nothing.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
that's the
shocked
thing
at
about
this
scouts,
one.
it's like, sometimes you just gotta cast the bread upon the water and then you paddle towards it and see what you can get. And that's very true. And that actually goes towards this too. In every pack you have folks who are the warriors. The ones who just, they've always got, oh, that's never gonna work because of this, or something's going on and they always interject in meetings and planning and such, and it's like they thrive on making it so much harder than it has to be. Yeah, well, drama, and it happens. The key to that is you are giving them meaningful positions that they have complete control over. Warriors worry about things they can't control. If you give them stuff they can control, they're adding value. Now, that doesn't mean you give them the most important things in the world. You need to remember, success begets success. You want to have them do things that are learning the success and learning that, you know what? Maybe this is not always gonna fail, and give them the ability to grow from that. Every pack I've ever met has a worrier or two. That's a fact. And you know what? Your object though is you want to give them something to do. People who have nothing to do are really good about stirring up things with their worriers. We need to talk about this. No, we don't. Yeah, we've talked about this. We can move on now. You know, they can, even if it means they're doing something where they're providing information or mentor from their experience. Okay? Now, the key about this too is that a lot of times you get their information, you want to make sure that they feel included there and they're actually adding value, but sometimes you got to gather their information informally or A to B, not in a group setting, so that their worry does not rub off on everybody else. But they still feel like, oh, my information's getting in, they're still getting your input, life's good there, and you know, ask for suggestions, they're including what's going on, and you're including them in there, and seeing by being able to be that way, they're getting out of the, well, this is out of my control, I can't do anything. You're giving them a sense of control, and sometimes it's not real control though. You know, I don't want me to sound like we're tricking people, but sometimes with worriers, that's what you have to do. You have to give them the opinion and the ability to provide you their information, but do it in a way that doesn't infect others. Success does beget success in this case. All right, this one is the one that that we all should be doing naturally. Okay, the rest of them, maybe remember that, maybe not. This is the one that hopefully you're doing all the time, being thankful. Okay, public thank yous, in front of the pack, in front of the dens, in front of the families, somehow public thank yous. Okay, it is so important to teach our boys what a thank you means. When I was growing up, my mom made me write thank you notes every time I got a present. I hated it as a kid. I don't want any presents. But you know what? It's stuck, and I know why we do it, and and that's what I do. And it sure feels good sometimes when somebody just comes up and says thank you. Now, the key here though is it needs to match the personality of your volunteer. If your volunteer absolutely hates to be in front of a crowd, bring them up front and make a really big deal about this thank you. Really not a good thank you. Hey, you're afraid of snakes. Hold this snake, please. That's a thank you that you make sure you make to them with their spouse there and their kids. It's a family thank you. And it's important not to just be an AB. Have their significant other and their children hear the thank you too, because they need their families to be proud of what they're doing and they feel good about that. That's as important. Now, make it a personal thank you too. If I just thank somebody, like we just had the blue and gold, Sky for Food, and we had some folks bring in trailers to help us out. And I just say, hey, I'd like to thank Mr. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so for providing their trailers. And that's my entire thank you. Okay, better than nothing, but not as good enough. What I should be doing is I should have, I'd like to thank Mr. So-and-so for the trailers. I'd like to remind everyone in the pack that it was just 8 short years ago that we used to take a caravan of cars, 14 cars, to carry all that scouting for food and to get it out there, and it used to take us hours with tons of people. These 2 guys and the use of their trailer made the difference. I've given detail and impact. They feel good that I understand what they've given. Their boys are beaming because Dad has been up there like, yeah, and that's the way to show a real thank you. I mean, yes, giving just a general thank you is better than nothing, but you should always do the details. Add the details. It shows you understand what happened. How many times have you been thanked for something and you're like, I don't even know what I really did? Okay, better than nothing, but not much better. Yes?
It's kind of interesting because for scouting for food, we had a Tiger Dad volunteer to carry all the bags. And I wasn't there, but then I asked him, well, how did it go? Oh, well, he pulled up in his sedan, and I figured he had a pickup truck. Cause he's like, and he's like, what are all these bags doing here? And so Monday is our pack meeting, so I gotta make sure I thank him and say,
absolutely.
oh, and by the way, we loaded the front seat, the back seat, his trunk, and he got 900 pounds of food.
Actually, why don't you give him the heavy car award? Figure out something, maybe a Matchbox car. I'd like to present him with the heavy car award. Never have we seen a car so packed full of food, to the rim. You can make it a real big deal out of
But
it.
then I want to use that as, and hopefully for next year, either he's gonna buy a truck or we're gonna find some food.
Yeah, so these kind of things, the thank you doesn't have to be big, but it has to be genuine. It shows that you understand and, you know, that there's really some details behind it. Knowing those kind of things makes a huge difference. You can recognize them in a newsletter if you have one, sending a letter of commendation to their employer. How many of us have ever done that? I don't think so.
Wow.
Scouting and volunteerism and your employer don't have to be separate worlds. If you have done an amazing job of helping a PAC do something with required project management or time value or whatever the case may be, these are things that you can send, you know, I want to thank you for your employees such and such's time. Because of their skills in doing this, this, this. Okay, you may have just highlighted a skill for that employer. They're like, oh yeah, he does do a good job of this and this and this.
I would say be careful with.
Be careful, but you're...
Like in my workplace, you would be doing me a disservice, because like, some of the bad stuff from scouting,
It's fair enough, fair enough.
you know, and the
You can always,
gay policy, like my boss is a lesbian, and my workforce is probably half gay.
It can
so
always
that
be,
would
thanks
be
for the
a-
help with thanks for the help with our youth organization. But there's, you know, absolutely, that's part of knowing your volunteer too.
Right.
Yes,
Birthday cards.
birthday cards, yep. Yep, send cards, I think it's on my next one too. Yeah, send cards, there it is.
Others.
Birthday cards,
Others.
yep. Annual ceremonies, you know, praise in front of others, it's important. Out of the ordinary goes a long way. Knots, these knots are going away, you know, we're going to a more benign looking knot for the Cub Scouts, it's going more to the Scouters knots. Okay, but still the same key. You know, what we're talking about is recognizing the adults for their time and their effort, just like the boys did. The boys need to see this. This is the kind of thing that, you know, it's important. The adults also put in hard work. And
Is
so-
it Bright Idea Award?
What was
Or
that?
do you have?
What's that?
Light bulb? You
Yeah.
have a light bulb one.
Yeah, the
That's
Bright Idea
pretty
Award.
genius.
Yeah, there. If you look on, you know, interesting Cub Scout awards, you will see thousands of really cool, like, man, it's so genius. Now, some people are like, oh, it's just another piece of crap. You know, it's the thought that counts. It is all about the thought. You're not necessarily giving them something that's going to be on their shelf for their entire life, and when they die, going, wow, this is it's not that. It's that you took the moment, something was created, and there's a meaning to it, and that's the key. That is the key. Yes.
We did Mardi Gras last year theme for our blue and gold, and I didn't even know they were doing this. The chair who did it, I thought it wasn't overstated, there was not a lot of money spent, but she had the leaders stand up in the front of the room, and she gave everybody special beads with the fleur-de-lis, so that was not given to the boys, they got the regular beads, and then I was even more shocked that she just had people that lend a hand throughout the year. She said, just stand up, and you know, and those of us, I didn't, because I was like, I don't think I do that much at this point, and she was, you know, she's like, stand up, Mom, you know, and so like they gave those to us, and it was just, and like my sons were like, can I have it, can I have it? I'm like, no, so, it was neat.
The sons love seeing their parents recognized for that kind of thing, and it does go a long way in the fact that the thank you, and this is what we're teaching. So, and that's the most important part, that we need to show the boys by demonstrating that gratitude is an integral part of how we react to other people, the respect that we're paying for those folks.
Excuse me, I have a question on the
Yes,
adult knots.
shoot.
I always thought that something that someone has to apply for throughout the
It does.
application. Are you suggesting we just tell them about it, or fill out half the form and say, hey,
Most
I'm
PACs,
almost there?
unfortunately, most PACs do not have a good centralized control of that. Typically, a PAC trainer or your advancement chair would be the one that controls it, but anybody can apply for them. And what needs to happen is that, you know, as whether you are a leader that is in charge or not in charge, if you know so-and-so, hey, you've gone to a couple roundtables, they've done this training on it, fill out the card. They're online, it takes just a minute to fill out, the Cub Master or the committee chair fills it out. Give your leader recognition, there you go.
Yeah, they had
And
the workshops.
even if the folks are not the kind who wear their knots, because they're playing about their knot, it doesn't matter. Because you're calling them up front, here's your certificate, here's the knot, thank you so much. You know, this is the work that you've done, and the boys understand that this work equated to that award.
The last.
We gave it in the beginning, I'm packed. pack trainer, and I gave it to them at the beginning of the year, so that they knew, like, they could, you know, if they possibly wanted to go to Pow Wow, or if they wanted to go to around, they knew what the expectations were to award, and I really encouraged them to try to win
Yep,
this.
I'd like to nominate you, here's your job description, I'd like to nominate you at the end of the year for this
Yeah,
award.
exactly.
And that also gives them a guideline on what they should be doing,
Right.
which is a great thing too.
I created these really cool certificates for them at the end of the year, because our Cub Master does so much for our pack, and so do our.
Well, the Cub
recruiters.
Master, there's the unit, leader award of merit, which is, and they actually, their Cub Master patch actually has a gold star on it. It's-
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't
absolutely,
know that.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are all kinds of awards, there are tons and tons, there are 58 knots. There really are, crazy. So, yeah, there are lots of opportunities. All right, let me finish up here so you guys can go home. Have fun though. If you're not having fun, the boy's not having fun. But you know what, if you're not having fun and you're constantly not having fun, the volunteers who work with you are not gonna have fun either, because they won't wanna be around you. You can get everything on the earth done, and you can be the most efficient machine ever. But if you're just never having fun, man, I don't need this, this is like work. I didn't sign for more work. I signed up to have fun with my boy. And that's the key. You know, but here's the thing. Be aware of your other volunteers. Are they having fun? Are they having time to spend with their son? If they're so busy doing other things that they never have time to spend time with their son at a Cub Scout event, you need to find them some help. And that applies to you too. You know, as Cub Master for about a year or so, I did not recognize, until my wife said, you know, you're not spending a whole lot of time with, you know, with Dave. You're right. And I worked out how I was doing things so I had time to spend doing the fun activities with him. Because ultimately, that's why I'm in Cub Scouts, is to support my son and the other boy, and the other boys, you know? And it shouldn't be where I'm now, you know, completely shirking my responsibilities, but I should still be able to do both. And if you can't, find them some help. If you've got some extra cycles, help them. There's lots of opportunity to make sure they're spending time with their son, because that's one of the major motivations for being in scouting. You know, otherwise, it's a drop-off or it's a job, you know, so look at that. Pack Pizzazz. A lot of the fun, Pack Pizzazz is just putting more energy into things. Being a big kid. A lot of times the motivation of being a scout leader is the fact that I can just be a big kid. That's what energizes me the most about scouting. You know, when one day's like, oh, I can just say, you know what? I'm going to do a crazy song today and a skit and this and this and this. And I have a great time as a kid, and all of a sudden I just feel just more energetic. And my kids have fun, and the kids that I'm leading have fun, and all of a sudden it's just very contagious. So having that kind of feel, you can't force it, but finding this ability to do it, you know, just really makes a difference. And encouraging others, and you know, hey, tell you what, let me help you with this more drudge portion of it. Go take care of that. Have the fun part. You know, every once in a while someone just grabs the not so fun part of the job. There are always lots of fun part of the job. But it is about family. It's about family experience. Okay, key takeaways here. The volunteers need to feel appreciated. They're making a difference. They challenge the task, and the work's important. Remember those 4 things, if you remember nothing else. That's your motivation, that's their motivation. And if they're not, if you can't say yes to those, then you need to change the way you're approaching it. You know, the task needs to be well defined, time limited. It is important. It is so important to have an end time on every task. That doesn't mean you can't renew it, but you have to have it. Because that's the way you can manage your expectations, your energy, and know that if I get to the end of my journey and I'm just tired, it's okay. Someone else is going to be there and pick it up. Because that kind of thing is huge. Supported by training. Okay? Focus on these all the time. All is a scary word. Oh, that means, you know, that's hard. Okay? These become all because they become habit. Hopefully, you already do this. Hopefully you're already thankful. Maybe now I've taught you to be a little more specific with your thanks. You're always, I'm hoping, learning more about your other volunteers and your other families. Because it is family fun. You know, we're out there, and our kids are having fun together, and they become best friends. And, you know, it's good to know all kinds of folks. And that doesn't mean that you do something every weekend, but you know more about them than just the basic. You know when, oh, they're having a tough time, or so-and-so lost their job, how can we help? Or, you know, so-and-so, their mom, they're just sick. You know, what can we do? What can the pack do? You know, because those kinds of ability to show the boys, you know, that, you know, when other folks need help, help other people at all times. That's what we do. You know, communication, feedback, honesty, timeliness, all those are huge. And going to the right hill. If I'm taking that hill and you're taking that hill, okay, great, we got two hills and we may get there, I don't know, and we may not. And both of us may struggle and fall down a million times trying to get there and then wonder where did everybody go. That's not a good plan, and it's demoralizing. So those are huge. Don't stress though. See, I see you're stressed. You need to allow some other folks to come in and help. Let your UC help. Being stressed is not going to help anything because ultimately stress is just going to work on you and it's not going to change the situation. You're like, easy enough for you, so you're not in the situation.
Yeah,
True.
it's-
But you know, it's true. And most times in life, when you're most stressed, if it's not within your control, you're not helping anything. There are other people who are there to help. You have tons of friends in your life that are there to help. Right? And your family or whomever. Same thing applies in a pack. No leader should be standing a mountain to themselves. There should be other leaders who may not understand absolutely everything you're doing. They sure should be able to help you a little bit. And if they can take a few cupfuls of the water out of your bucket before it overflows, and they take a couple cupfuls, next thing you know, like, whew, okay, I can put my feet down again, and I'm not treading water anymore. All right, now we can move forward. And you re-energize and you move forward again. Being clear, being genuine, having fun. So, man, I used a few more minutes, sorry about that. The ultimate thing to remember about motivating is that what applies to you applies to everyone else. You need to stay motivated as well. And a lot of times, sometimes it's just as simple as like, I need help. Asking for the help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for the help is not a sign of failure. Asking for the help is being smart enough to understand that, you know what? I got a little too much on my shoulders right now. And who has a little space in their cart for me, for stuff I got on my shoulders? And there's always somebody. All right, that's it. Happy Pow Wow Day!